Welcome to another Saturday of learning different ways of taking care of ourselves, our physical selves, our emotional self, our sense of being an individual self, and also the interconnection with others, the bigger self, which is all present in us. And sometimes we are more aware of one of it than others. Today, I thought it would be good to talk about the vagus nerve and its connections to the rest of the functioning of our body, and also the connection with the brain, and and how it is influenced through breathing, and connections between some of what classical yoga tells us, and what neuroscience is telling us with some of the latest discoveries. And it's a very active field, and we always have more and more discoveries and different aspects to look at this subject of understanding better ourselves and cultivating ways of experiencing inner peace and interconnection. There is a lot of research that has come out in the last, especially 10 years or so, about the importance of the vagus nerve because of its interconnections with the rest of the body, and also in the treatment of some particular problems like irritable bowel syndrome, and also depression, and problems with the heart. And the reason for that it can influence so many different organs and be of help in different physical problems, but also emotional problems, is because this nerve, the vagus nerve, which is also called the 10 cranial nerve, and they are pairs, it starts in the brain, goes down through the throat and the thorax, and all the way to the abdomen. And it's the longest nerve, and it has many ramifications that then pick up signals from all this, the viscera and the intestinal tract, the heart and the lungs. It also is connected to the muscles of the face, around the eyes and around the mouth, and even through the inner ear. So, it's very interesting, the work that Professor Stephen Porges has done about the vagus nerve. And he talks about 3 different components of the vagus nerve. An older component that's more related with the organs from the diaphragm down. Another part of the vagus nerve that's in our evolution is a more recent one. So this one down here is the oldest, and then comes the one that has to do with the innervation of the heart and the lungs. And it also affects a bit the extremities, and has to do a bit more with our responses to danger, when we are more prone to then go into fight or flight, while this lower part has more to do with freeze, to being immobilized. We're going to talk a little bit more about this and tune it a little bit more. And then the upper part of the vagus nerve, according to Professor Porges, has to do with social engagement. And of course, there's a lot of that we know when we are with friends or whatever, as we look in each other's eyes, and there is a lot of communication that happens with the expression of the mouth, whether it's like, or smiling and open, and and all of that also sends signals to the vagus nerve, which in turn sends it to the brain. In the vagus nerve, 80% of the cells have to do with receiving signals from the different organs and areas where the vagus nerve is connected. And so it's important for us in this journey that we are having together of getting to know ourselves more deeply, and also of maybe catching early the signs that we're getting of different reactions that we are having. The body gets to know first and sends signals first before the brain has actually processed and created a narrative about what's going on and why is it feeling like that. So when we feel, for example, that we are tensing up and that somehow we are more agitated, we can, if we are paying attention at that moment, intervene, and with something so simple as taking a few deep breaths, and especially with a longer exhalation, we'll be activating the parasympathetic cells of the vagus nerve, which are more for repair and rest and relax. And that's, once we are in that relaxed state, then everything functions better. So why is it so important, the research that Professor Porges has done and his polyvagal theory, which means these three different functions and segments of the vagus nerve? It's important because on the one hand, when he talks about the function of the section of the vagus nerve that has to do with the area of the abdomen, and how on the one hand it can, because of being part of the parasympathetic nervous system, the vagus nerve, it's important because then it helps us to relax. On the other hand, when we are under great danger of losing our life or being overcome by something that's much bigger than us that we cannot fight, it creates a sense of disengagement. Sometimes it goes to the point of fainting, and it often brings the concomitant reaction of forgetting. And for example, this is super important for people with trauma, survivors of trauma, and I have experienced that myself, of how my whole organism and my memory is just totally shut down, and they're very painful experience, and I just can't recover part of what happened. I mean, no matter what different ways I have tried to go then to recover what exactly happened. I only have elements from before and after, and some other components of what people told me, but it's impossible to remember. And I couldn't kind of come to terms with it until I realized through these studies that these are very ancient mechanisms of survival, and that sometimes the whole system just shuts off, and it's not a failure, it's a surviving mechanism. And so just accept that somehow the wisdom of the body has taken that path and has shut down. The way that Professor Porges explains this is that this is part also of a mechanism of one of our ancestors when the transition between reptiles and mammals, especially the turtles, we have some phylogenetic connections with them. And what does a tortoise do when it's scared? It just kind of dissociates. It goes into its shell. And so that's something that this part does. So it's interesting to know that it has the two functions. On the one hand, when it's at a case of very life threat, not danger, but life threat, that you are in a situation that you could die from it. Sometimes the body does that. When it's functioning more or less okay, then the other part is that doesn't immobilize in passing out, but it immobilizes in relaxation. For example, when we give a hug to someone that we love and that we trust, and we feel hug, we tend to go into a state of total relaxation, almost immobilization. Is it trusting being together with another human? So it's a form of immobilization and relaxation. And then the part that he talks about, the social engagement, which would be, more the upper part of the vagus nerve that starts like in the brain and brainstem and connects with the inner ear, and then it goes through the throat and it comes to the heart. So this part here, he talks about the importance of the modulation of the voice. For example, how when we are being shouted to, for example, it's very difficult for us to actually listen to the ideas that are being said, because there is something within the ear that, although the sounds are coming, there is not the opening to be able to take it in through our nervous system and through what's going on, in that kind of altercation, that fiery discussion. And also that would be more extreme case, but how important it is to modulate the voice. And when we communicate, try to calm ourselves deeper, so that our connection is through a voice that tends to relax the other person and tends to relax ourselves. And of course, that we can also get to that state through breathing. That's what we are going to do today. The importance that yoga gives to breathing through pranayama, the manipulation, if you want, or the control, or the directing the breath, so that it helps us to calm down and to regain a sense of balance. Also, the importance, of course, of smiling, the importance of making connection through the eyes. All these are clues that are, on the one hand, almost external, as we will look at each other's eyes, but also are deeply connected with the physiology that we experiment when that is happening. And how difficult it is during the pandemic that we are seeing just the little screens, and how that can create a distancing. And it depends. If you look at the screen, like if you're looking at TV, and so you look at it with some kind of disengagement, you are going to still feel the distance. But if you participate more, like smiling or moving your head, or leaning forward, leaning back, etc., that creates a little bit more of connection. And it can be still a great tool within these times when we are somehow quarantining. Talking within the subject of social engagement, how important is the breathing, and especially the long exhalations to calm down. He was also talking about the importance of touch, and how much it helps us to come back into homeostasis, into this sense of inner balance, when we can touch our pets and feel their affection to us, when we can be with another human being, either smiling or connecting through the eyes, or if it is possible, depending on what are the dynamics of the interrelation, also a hug, of course, it would be the greatest, bringing together all these capacities that we have with our different parts of the vagus nerve to be relaxed in kind of immobilization, like in foreplay or in embracing or whatever, and our heart and lungs being ready to participate, to move, to expand, to have this sense of connection through love and trust, and then the social engagement of our eyes being very relaxed and our mouth relaxed and smiling. And so these are, I found it very interesting because I think I have shared with you when I went to India to study for a year in a school that trained yoga teachers in India and that taught classical yoga. I was there, and then one of the teachers there, some of you have seen it, but some of you have not seen it, so I'm going to show you. This is my graduation picture from India, and that was the main teacher. He stayed with us for some time. This was in the hills near Bombay or Mumbai. And then he lived more in Rajkot, which was further north in India. But I don't know if you can recognize me there. But many years ago, the early 70s. So he asked, why do you come here? And I said, oh, I came to study the scriptures. I want to understand what are we doing here? How are we to relate to ourselves, to others? And why are we doing many things that are not so positive? And so I want to study the scriptures. And he said, can you be kind when your toe hurts? And it's just totally thrown me out of my usual components of reasoning and figuring things out and studying and connecting ideas mainly. And he was saying several things. He was saying it's not all about just reasoning. You have to embody it, and you have to understand what is happening in your body and also learn to work directly with your body. And he was also throwing in that about being kind, which I thought it was very interesting, that it was not just about me understanding how to function well, but also that in all this, there was always this interplay with somebody else. And that interplay didn't come just from reasoning and understanding. It came from some way of embodying deeply and knowing what was going on with my body at the time. And so I find particularly fascinating when there are approaches like neuroscience is having now, and other sciences that connect more, not just the figuring out, but they start giving more and more relevance, not only to the brain, but to the whole body and all that as related to interconnections. And so I find these studies about the vagus nerve very hopeful, in the sense that they also teach different kinds of practices that to relax that are totally along with what I learned in that school in India, where I stayed for a whole year from morning to evening, and the practices that I have done ever since. And so it's great to have the opportunity to share it with you. I started when the pandemic started, send us all home, and I realized again that that the anxiety that we were generating, and even the fear, as we sometimes would be in the street, thinking, oh, what's going to happen, or going into any place. And this was at the very beginning, where we didn't know anything about how to manage ourselves and interconnection with others. I realized, well, the anxiety and the fear is just as bad or worse than the COVID itself, because it's more pervasive. It's just like, yeah, the COVID, it's highly contagious, and now the Delta variant is also highly contagious. But even deeper is, what do we do moment to moment, day to day, week to week with ourselves and with our relations with others? And it's all it's very important to cultivate some kind of grounding, some kind of safety. That's another point that comes up in many of the teachings, that once we work with this safety, with the grounding, other things start to kind of come into better interconnection. So let's practice some of that. I have shared with you in other classes and that in yoga, when we talked about the different chakras, for example, the Manipura chakra, which is a little bit just under the navel. Chakra means vortex of energy. And in all ancient traditions, even in ancient America, Central America, South America, and in India, in China, many different traditions, also in Africa, they talk about three major centers of energy, one at the level of the abdomen, one at the level of the heart, and one at the level of the forehead here. And it's very interesting because if you go to anatomy now, you see that in those different centers, there is also plexus of nerves. And so there is a lot of influence through those nerve plexus, gatherings of nerves in different parts of our body that also are all interconnected. So I want to go back to this Manipura chakra or vortex of energy. The Chinese call it the lower dantian, lower field of elixir. Maybe we can put our hands there and just feel for a moment that part of our body. And we are going to practice a breathing that has to do with a little bit of movement in that part of our body. Sometimes we are accustomed to breathe in a way that as we inhale, we bring the abdomen in. It's a breath that goes more to the chest and somehow brings that abdomen in. So this one is a little bit different in the sense that we are going to bring the attention to the abdomen and we are going to exhale as we press a little bit the abdomen in and let the air go out. When the time comes to inhale, we are going to inhale through the nose and let the air go to abdomen, and the abdomen is going to push out a little bit because the air that's coming in is now filling that empty space that we created when we exhale. So again, let's exhale, have the hands. Let's exhale, have the hands. So let's say a navel there, just a little bit under the navel. We exhale and we bring the abdomen in. And when the time comes to inhale, let's relax the abdomen and let it bulge like if it was a balloon being filled with air as you inhale through the nose. And maybe there is a slight pause after the inhalation. We start forcing, and when the time comes to exhale, we exhale slowly, gently, and deeply, allowing that abdomen to come in towards the back. Exhaling, letting all the air go out, we start forcing. And now let's try to find some natural rhythm of inhaling, letting the air come all the way down to abdomen, and the abdomen bulges. And maybe there's a slight pause there. And when the time comes to exhale, we start exhaling, bringing the abdomen in, letting the air go out. Let's do 4 or 5 of these abdominal breaths. This is the way that babies breathe in their cots. And invite a sense of safety. Like if you are a mountain, sitting there, feeling the support that the chair offers to you, or the floor, wherever you are right now. In a sense of safety. And if the word safety is complicated for you right now, just noticing the slight movement of the abdomen, resting in it, resting in the support that the chair or the ground offers to you, and also the pull of gravity. Being totally safe at home, in the company of these friends, practicing a little bit of abdominal breath, which helps to relax all the viscera in the abdomen. If other thoughts come, and for whatever reason you're not finding a rhythm here, just don't try so hard. Just see if you can exhale by bringing the abdomen in a little bit. When the time comes to inhale, see if you can relax your abdomen. This is an area that also has to do with your presence in the world. So we are going to add to the sense of grounding, the sense of acceptance, self-acceptance, friendly feelings towards yourself, recognition of your efforts, whatever you are doing right now, whatever brought you to this moment of learning, practicing, relaxing. Befriending yourself. And whatever arises, just being with it. So that was a little bit of experience with abdominal breathing. I highly recommend to come back to it whenever you remember. And it's really beautiful when you are also laying down at night, your body is supported by the bed. And you just put your hand here and you feel how the abdomen, goes down when you're exhaling, and how it goes up when you're inhaling. And it's very kind of mesmerizing to allowing yourself to be receiving the support that the bed is offering to you. In this case, I had too many pillows. All right. So receiving the support that the bed is giving to you, and just totally giving yourself to that support. And then practicing a bit of abdominal breath as you fall into sleep. And then in the morning, instead of immediately jumping out of bed to do all the other things, taking some time to also practice a little bit of abdominal breath. Maybe you can even massage your abdomen or whatever. Usually when you want to observe something, it's easier if you want to go deep in it, if you are not moving so much. So just mainly observing the movement of the breath. But the body also likes massage. So you can combine massage with afterwards being still for a while and observing your breathing, and then some more massage if you like. So this way we develop greater tone in our vagus nerve. Simple, just abdominal breath. Another breath that helps quite a bit is a breath that has to do more with the lower part here. So it's kind of near to the abdominal breath, but it's more the diaphragmatic breath in the sense of the lower part of the diaphragm and the lower part of the lungs. And this is sometimes called bucket handle breath. So you put your hands by the side of your ribs, your last two ribs, and then as you inhale, you send the air there, trying to, so that the ribs would expand, and push your hands a little bit to the side. So let's say we are inhaling, exhaling. Inhaling. So you feel the expansion to the side and to the back and the front. Exhaling. Inhaling. Exhaling. Can also do it like this. Inhaling. Exhaling. Inhaling. When you move like this part moves too. So you can either get the clues by having your hands right by your ribs and then feeling the push there, which is perhaps evident. And if not, if that's a little bit difficult to feel, just know that when you're exhaling, bringing your hands and arms like this and inhaling like this, there will be an opening of the chest. So this is also very good because this kind of, it helps you to feel all the lungs with air, not just, usually we just kind of have more chest breathing that goes here. Feeling a little bit of the expansion of the chest there and exhaling. Any of them, the abdominal breath, these more rib, lower lungs, and lower ribs, and this, any breath that you just kind of bring your attention for a moment and rest in it, it will help with the better functioning of the vagus nerve. And if you can smile a little bit, that will help too, because it helps relax the muscles of your face. It sends signals to the brain, we are fine now, we are enjoying whatever. And then it sends feedback back to the body with neurotransmitters and hormones that help you to feel even more relaxed and happy. So William James used to say, I'm not I'm not crying because I'm sad because I'm crying. Same thing with smiling. I'm not smiling because I'm super happy. I'm happy because I'm smiling. So we bring first these clues from the body and rest on them, and that's great help. So yoga gives great importance to all the science of breathing. Um, the classical yoga has 8 branches. 2 are about psychology 101, how we relate to ourselves and how we relate to others. The yamas and niyamas, observances and restraints. Observances which relate to how we relate to ourselves, restraints, no violence, no greed, etc. And then it has the working with the body, with asanas, poses, that we stay in them for some time, and that affects the functioning of our endocrine glands. And then another 4th branch is pranayama, which is working with the prana, this vital energy that in the Chinese system is called qi. And so pranayama is the breath. We barely touch on the surface of this today. I would like to teach you another day 8 breathings, which are some that I do every morning when I wake up. If it's at 4 o'clock, whenever I wake up, I just sit in bed, do these 8 breathings, and then lay down and have a much deeper sleep. So there is a lot. I mean, we are just touching the most simple components of all this, but I want you to know that they are within your reach. Some other things that help with relaxing and with toning the vagus nerve are yawning. Yawning whenever you remember, or even if you just want to relax all this area here of the connection of the vagus nerve with the throat and all that. Yawning provides a lot of relaxation there. Singing, just remember, yeah, good. I'm seeing some of you really big yawns. That's fabulous for your vagus nerve. So also exhaling. Singing, remember some of the songs that you like most, put them and sing along. That's great for all this, toning of the vagus nerve in the area that then has so much to do with social engagement. Smiling, of course, for social engagement when we are alone and when we are with others. Very good exercise for your vagus nerve.